All right. Greg O'Brien, good to see you. Remember, the Super Chat is a great way to kick off the show and help support what we do on a nightly basis. So thank you so much to those donating, like Triple Ack right here. Good to have you here. Everyone, get your horns up. We're about to rock out to Bumblefoot. Let's start. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read up on Shirky Poo's Newswire, and check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. It is that time once again, as near the beginning of each month, all we talk about is extraterrestrials and UFOs with this guy. Yes, he is the captain of the Woo train. We call him R Keith Andrews. He is our R Keith Andrews, I should say, and this is the ET Connection. Keith is a lifelong experiencer who now helps counsel those who have their own ET contact or abduction experiences themselves. And, of course, you can find him on YouTube and on Facebook at Inner Voice Enterprises and R. Keith Andrews. My man, Keith, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you.
Just great, thanks. How's yourself?
I am okay. I am breathing, which is nice. I am losing weight, which is nice. I am, honestly, I was late for work this morning because I was literally caught up looking at my hair in the mirror this morning. It looks so good. Yeah.
See, I never have that problem. I just don't look at myself in the mirror.
I'll tell you, your mutton chops are looking fantastic, though. They got to be sticking out 3 inches at least.
Something like that. There's the jawline there.
That is beautiful.
And they come down, so yeah, they're close to it, I suspect.
Right on. I love it. Love it. Keith, you're somebody who we're always having different people hearing you for the first time on terrestrial and digital. And you know what? You're a little bit of an anomaly because there's not a lot of people like you out there who have had lifelong experiences and have been shown by a number of extraterrestrial species what is actually going on in this strange universe of ours and the universes beyond ours. So let's get people knowing you about your story, a quick summary about who you are.
Well, in a nutshell, I had my first run-in with them literally the day I was born. I was not, people that tell you that you don't, that, birth is wonderful, do not remember their birth. I literally remember coming down the birth canal, ended up in an incubator, and decided that wasn't a fun job, so I decided I was leaving. That day was when I first ran into the council at 12, and my first run-ins with off-worlders, and was promptly told that I had to come back. Right, so I've been dealing with the off-worlders. Like, I split aliens into 2 groups. Off-worlders, meaning they grew up off the planet, and then your ancient races, which are the ones that actually evolve on Earth. So I've been dealing with them, amongst other things, since day one. My first real close contact with them, my first positive close contact was at 5 years old in a military base dealing with the MyLab laboratories. It was literally the reptilians, the Srazosians, which are your 7.5 to 8.5 foot reptilians, that were directly responsible for my surviving that little ordeal. So, I mean, I find it interesting when people come out with this idea that, reptilians are the problem. The reality is I know of at least a dozen races that are essentially reptilian. They look reptilian by Terran standards, and they do not all get along. So I started off with abductions at the hands of the Talon, which are an ant-like race that happen to also be web spinners. Them I still have trouble with. And then from there, it went from abductions to contacts, and now I end up consulting with them sometimes more often than I do with humans.
For you, you've had a tough life, and I don't think a lot of people quite understand. And I will say this: I mean, outside of this show, you and I are friends, and I feel very protective of our friendship because I absolutely love and adore you as someone important in my life. And, but for you, you had a tough life growing up. You were a military brat. You were someone who was dealing with your own extraterrestrial and strange experiences. It's hard to have a childhood through there. It's hard to forge relationships. It forms a very introverted life. And yet here you are publicly talking about all of these weird and strange experiences that you have that, for lack of a better term, there's some people out there who bully you because they do not understand what you've gone through and the experiences you've had. What's it like continually battling the idea that you're making up all of these stories?
Well, it gets really complicated, especially when you look at the rest of what goes on around me. But you get to a certain point where you're like, okay, look, I'm not here to prove what I'm going through. Because as it was put to me one day, for the people that believe it, no proof is required. For the people that don't, almost no proof is possible. So you reach a point where you're just looking at it going, I'm not here to prove to anybody. I'm here to help people get an understanding of what they're going through. Now, of course, the fact that I've been through a lot of it gives me that hands-on approach where I can say, been there, done that, know what you're going through firsthand, which makes it easier for some people. But am I able to prove it? No. You and I had that little complication where somebody caught me on a really bad day one day a few months back and asked why he should believe what I was saying. My response was, admittedly, socially, or at least professionally, a little, shall we say, off-kilter.
It was different from you. It was actually nice to see. It really was. Well, Keith there, I thought he was going to cross-check someone in the teeth there. But that's okay. That's okay. But for you, though, how do you... And I already know the answer to this. But I'm asking on behalf of the audience, how do you deflect the negativity that comes your way with people who are refusing to kind of take your word for what you're up to?
I've reached a point in my life where it's actually relatively easy. Somebody will go, oh, you're just making it up. And I'll look at them and go, okay. Because the reality of it is, I've been dealing with abductions and off-worlders and ancient races since I was born. I started playing Dungeons and Dragons, right, when I was 13. And of course, the metaphysical field came into play as far as consulting people on their life, where it was going when I was 10. And now I'm a published author in 5 different genres. So there's no question that my imagination is huge. And what I ended up having to tell people on occasion is, I've got all that going on. So the question is, does the writing come from the knowledge, or does the knowledge come from the writing? And with the number of people that I've had corroborate what I've done, what I've gone through, I just came to the conclusion that I just don't try and convince people of it. As it was told to me by an extremely intelligent individual one day, lack of proof of existence is not proof of non-existence. I ended up in a conversation with a person one day, because I was in another chat room and I was just listening to the show, and the guy claimed that he was a alien technology specialist. And somebody in the chat room asked him, why is it that we see the small ships, but nobody ever seems to see the big ones? Long story short, the guy left the thing hang for a good 15, 20 seconds. And then he comes back with, I don't know. Well, at that point, I figured, okay, I got to say something because it was a legitimate question. And literally what I told the person, what I typed into the chat room was, well, once you understand the oscillatory densification of the tri-transspatial equipolarity, it's easy to comprehend. And the woman writes back, she goes, is that even a word? I said, yeah, it's not common, but the long and the short of it was, after an hour and a half, 2 hours in private chat with her, I found out that, first of all, she already had a master's in rocketry and astrophysics, and what I was talking about, they barely touched the surface of.
Wow. Well, this is a different type of show that we do if you're listening in for the first time. This is a show where we will take questions from the audience right off the bat. It is very audience-oriented, and if you have any questions in our chat rooms or on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio, please put them in capital letters, and I will pass them on to Keith. Over at our Spreaker chat, Keith, Paladin 2012 has a question. He says, "Hey, R Keith, my wife has been woken up in the middle of the night only to look down at the foot of the bed and find a 7-foot-tall being with a long kind of head and either skin or clothing they wore, the plural, there are multiple beings, they wore look like galaxies in space. She did not feel any negative intentions, any idea who they are and what they want. If anyone would know, it would be you."
In all likelihood, she was dealing with Pleiadians, but it was likely, if it was true Pleiadians, the odds are she was looking at a holographic display. Primarily because true Pleiadians cannot be on Earth; they can't survive. With that kind of a description, there's a few that it could fit into. But if there's no sense of negativity, no sense of panic or anything, that's who you're likely looking at. And that being said, not to raise alarms, because with them, there's really nothing to fear. But the odds are that they're just setting up to make contact.
Now, I find that very ironic that you say that real true Pleiadians can't come to Earth, yet you talk to 90% of the people out there who say they've had contact, and everybody's a damn Pleiadian. We never get any Lyrans or Zeta Reticulans or Dracos or anybody. Everybody wants to be a Pleiadian and hop on the bandwagon.
Well, they're nice people, but true Pleiadians cannot survive in Earth's atmosphere. It'll kill them. Now, you can run into Pleiadian hybrids without too much trouble. And they are a little more outgoing than a lot of the other races. But I absolutely agree with you that so many people go, oh, I talk to the Pleiadians all the time. Well, in my experience, no. But that's just my experience.
All right, let's move on to Russell. Green mantids, are they good? And their connection to the military, please?
Well, that depends on your definition of good. Are they in contact with the military? The answer is yes. But understand, the green mantis, they want to know what mankind has in the way of military technology. They are not trading military with them. Right. But the mantis race on a whole, the only thing stopping them from actually taking out Earth is because the consortium would blow up their homeworld and their secondary world and their tertiary one. Kind of a real deterrent for trying to invade.
Where do they come from?
If you're meaning the name of the planet, that I honestly don't know. Of course, they could have been facetious and they come from their parents. But,
Keith, how many different species of extraterrestrial live in our solar system?
Oh, heavens. As far as native goes, let's see. You've got the Martokians, the Venusians, the Mobians. Then you've got you're probably looking at 2 or 3 dozen races. Just on a rough gauge. Many of them come here on a regular basis, and there are more that have what's the word I'm looking for? That have not footholds, but outposts. That's the word I'm looking for. There's a lot more that have outposts either on Earth or in the solar system than there are that actually have actual colonization here.
All right, let's move on. Jeremy is asking, are different blood types more prone to contact?
Absolutely not, from my experience. Different blood types are picked up for different reasons and by different races. But it doesn't seem to have a whole lot of bearing on what your blood type is to make you more targeted or less targeted.
Uncle Dale and his power stash from Texas. Is that a Dark Tower model on the top shelf behind you, Keith?
Now, that is an excellent... Oh, no, that's a lighthouse. Give me half a second, I'll show you.
I don't know if he means the lighthouse.
I don't know if he does either, but the only thing I'm thinking of, the only one I know of, would be this. What?
Maybe it was the computer tower.
Ask me if it was that thing.
Well, I got to get scroll down in the chat room first.
Oh, okay.
I'm not there yet.
Okay. But yeah, that's the only tower I know of that I've got back there.
All right. Well, let's move on to another question, and I'll find out from Uncle Dale.
Okay.
You never know if it's Uncle Dale or his power stash that's asking the questions. David here is asking, what would you say about small creatures who visit my room at night? They are very hairy, golden brown fur, about 4 times the size of a house cat.
About 4 times the size of a house cat?
Isn't that those Ewok-type looking things?
Almost, by the sounds of it. You might be dealing with Kinlar. Kinlar basically look like rats, but they are about 3 feet tall. They're an interesting race, but boy, are they vicious.
What's up with them? What's with the attitude?
They have an idea that, number one, they want recognition for a kill. If they're hunting, they will kill their own people so they get recognition for taking whatever they're hunting. Needless to say, this means they're not really good people to take to the battlefield with you.
Makes sense. All right, let's continue on here. Logan wants to know, who or what is occupying the moon? Is that an outpost you speak of?
No, that would be a trading post. Or a way station, if you will. And who and what would be more the question. But basically, if you really want to get an idea, take a look at the original, at Star Wars, when they show that bar on Tatooine. And you get that massive mix of different races. Same idea, just they're not all the same. They're not all those races.
All right. Greg is wondering, can they, the aliens, touch my camera through the fence?
Well, not knowing what the fence is he's referring to, I don't know.
Yes.
It may be a terminology problem.
All right. Yes, it was the lighthouse that Uncle Dale and his power stash were wondering about.
Oh, okay.
All right. Purpose and Grace would like to know, do we have anything beneficial to offer aliens?
Absolutely. Mankind is one of those rare races that has a curiosity streak that is absolutely unstoppable. And humans are the only race that actually has, well, they are one of two races that have absolute access to what humans call zero-point energy. In other words, the ability to manipulate matter on the physical plane if they get out of their own way. Okay, but that requires being centered with yourself, and that's not being self-centered. Right. It literally boils down to believing it's possible and then focusing on that. The only other race that actually can do that are the Mobians. And frankly, they originated on Earth. You know, the problem is that mankind right now is a very volatile, very fear-based race, which is why a lot of what they're capable of doing, they don't do.
All right, let's move on here. Jeremy is asking, watch something on large crystal mines in Mexico. Are ETs mining crystals?
Oh, heavens no. The ones you're talking about in New Mexico, those are Vulcans. That's a nesting ground.
In Mexico, not New Mexico.
Oh, sorry. The big underground crystal mine or crystal caves that you see, right? 90% of those are literally, like, some of them are just crystals, but Vulcans, which are a crystalline race, come here to nest, very much like sea turtles go to different places to nest. And in answer to the question you're about to ask, Vulcan is a planet that is it's closer to the sun than what Mercury is. It's just inside the sun's photosphere.
All right.
And intriguingly enough, yes, NASA does know about it.
All right. Eagle wants to know, did they put us humans on Earth to mine gold and resources on Earth for the extraterrestrials?
Not in the slightest. Mankind was actually built on Earth. Quite literally, it was for a war. Okay, the issue of you don't mine, I mean, that's kind of like given that Earth itself is another race. It's a Caboran. And mining Earth, mining Earth itself for gold and for the minerals there is kind of like grabbing humans and starting to pull the minerals out of them. It's just not very polite.
Okay, one more question before we go to break here. We only got 40 seconds. Do 36 races of aliens all use generally the same craft, or are all of their craft different in looks or operation?
Quite often you'll find a lot of them are similar, but no, ultimately each race that have ships do have their own designs.
All right. On that note, Keith, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection comes in near the beginning of each month to teach us all about the alien woo that is out there. So come ride the woo train with us. It's always a good time with Keith, who is based out of Kelowna, British Columbia. Lifelong experiencer. We'll take more audience questions and let you direct the show the way we always do with Keith. More Spaced Out Radio when we continue right after this. All right, we're clear.
Okay, no. Put this back where it came from.
Yeah. What else we got here? That'll be our next question from the gorgeous Thin Lizzie Borden.
I thought she was dead.
No, Thin Lizzie.
Oh, sorry.
Who else has showed up here? Oh, I think we're good right now. We is good right now, man.
Oh, check something here. Better have it. D. Got a couple of packages I got to send out tomorrow. No, tomorrow or early in the week. Trying to beat Christmas shipping.
Oh, yeah. That's good stuff.
Oh, by the way, just for your edification. Well, actually, I think we're still live on YouTube, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, just for your edification, well, everybody on YouTube anyway, the Races of the Worlds, I've actually got the artwork being done for it now.
Oh,
for
nice.
for the races themselves. It's going to take a little bit of time, but at least I've got somebody doing them. Now, I should have. I did send you a copy of that, did I not?
You were going to. I haven't got it yet.
Okay. Well, that's why. Whether it got lost or what have you doesn't matter. That's one of the two packages. One of the 3 packages I have to send out.
Well, I appreciate that, bud.
Oh, not a problem. The other thing, just to let you know, right now, it doesn't have the pictures in it. When I get all the pictures done and get it reprinted,
yeah,
I've got a list of the people I've sent them to, that have bought them. And the ones that have already bought them, I will just be shipping the new copy out when the pictures are done. From my standpoint, that just fits.
Very cool. All right, we got about a couple minutes.
Yep.
Lyra, how are you? Jose, nice to see you. Mm-hmm. Thomas, I gotta have something. Can't kill everything at once, man.
Please tell me that's big enough. See this funny little box here, Dave?
Yeah.
This is yours.
Oh, well, thank you.
Don't worry, there'll be something in it when I get finished.
Adam, it's orange ice. Who is Alice? Thank you so much. Says, first time watching your show, and I am enjoying this every minute. Wonderful. We're glad that you're here. Thank you. I'll look for that next time I'm there, Thomas. Thank you. About 90 seconds, Keith.
Yep, not a problem. I'm not exactly going far.
I know.
I just figured I was here. I might just well get this done while I was thinking of it.
Hey, Dirty Filth. Where's your ghouls and boils? And your foyer? Which is the proper pronunciation. All right, I want to say a big thank you so far to Jeremy, Spooky, Mennonite Abe, Triple Ack, Thomas and Adam for the amazing super chats. It's a great way to support what we do on a nightly basis. Remember to give us a thumbs down, thumbs up, thumbs sideways, whatever it may be that you feel we deserve. And if you're new here, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell. We are here 7 days a week for your listening pleasure. So thank you, each and every one of you, for coming on in. And we're going to rock R Keith Andrews here in a few seconds. So just stay tight, and the radio side of the commercial part will be over. We'll get right back into questions when we return in about 10 seconds. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading up on Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. R Keith Andrews is here as he comes in near the beginning of each month as we hop on the woo train for a little action that we call the ET Connection. Keith breaks down everything extraterrestrial for us and answers your questions about your own contact, your own sightings, or maybe even your own abductions. Keith, welcome back.
Well, thank you for having me, and welcome to all the newcomers.
All right.
And everybody that's already here.
We have a question from Thin Lizzy for you. Foreign objects found in people's bodies, do certain races of aliens do this more than others?
Well, technically the answer would be yes. The Greys are notorious for it because they're the ones that deal with the hybridization program. But there's a lot of races doing their own research that will use their own tracking methods to find out where people are going. I mean, this is a gold mine for xenosocioeconomic, evolution studies.
Wonderful. Wonderful. All right, let's move on to another question. First-time listener, who is Alice? How do you astral project?
In a nutshell, you do get into a comfortable position. Okay, you don't have to get into one of these really silly, uncomfortable places, but do this when you're awake, like when you're wide awake. You get yourself to a point where you relax, and ultimately, if you will, imagine yourself stepping out of a vehicle is the easiest way to put it. Now, it will feel a little funny with the first time you do it. Okay, because it is kind of like separating Velcro from the way I've had it described to me. That kind of a crackling sound that Velcro does when you pull it apart.
Yes.
Right. It can be a little disconcerting. The first time that you do it, what'll likely happen is you'll feel like you're all of a sudden above everything, and then of course it's like, oh, this isn't possible, and you'll slam yourself back in. So it may take you a couple of times to actually get out of your body and stay out for a bit. You will find when you get out, most people leave a silver umbilical cord behind them, which is literally used to remember where your body is.
All right, next question. Greg wants to know, is it true that extraterrestrials gave us pets and weed?
No, not from my understanding. Pets, humans domesticated some of Esau's children. But, as far as weed goes, that is literally from what you know as Earth. That's not an off-world plant. That's not to say some extraterrestrials don't use it.
All right.
But no, they didn't bring it themselves.
All right, moving on. Kaiju wants to know, Keith, can you please tell us what kind of ETs are hostile and dangerous? Which ones are the threats?
Well, the threats to who? There is not a single race that I'm aware of, that is actively trying to invade Earth. Now, the Talons and the Teklek, I wouldn't recommend going to dinner for. The Vegans, they're not dangerous. The problem is they do not understand pain. Because with a Vegan, they just don't have pain centers. So this whole idea of anesthetic or mind-numbing drugs or hallucinogenic overlays, the Talons don't understand the necessity for them. Right. Tormenon are a problem in as much as they can be bought to do just about anything. But I'm not entirely certain which one I would call a threat per se. Any one of the races, if they became problematic, there would be, like, people worry about, is Earth imminently in danger of an alien invasion? And that's just a blanket no. It's a wonderful fear-based thought process, but it's based on Earth. Because the thing we have to realize where it comes to off-world invasion, or for that matter, ancient race invasion, the fight would be over long before mankind ever even knew it was starting. You know, we had this discussion quite some time ago about how the entire invasion process would work, which would leave mankind completely out of the loop. But I do not recommend asking, like some people have gone, well, gee, I really would like to be abducted and have that experience. I don't care who by. Well, I'll tell you, if you ever run into a tech like that invites you to dinner, absolutely turn them down, because you will be dinner.
I can see that. All right, moving on. Jeremy wants to know, how do they make their craft? Greys are so tiny.
Well, on the plus side, Greys aren't the only ones building their craft. But the fact that they're tiny isn't the problem, because they do have the technology to actually make their craft, to make larger craft. And of course, they have other races that work with them, you know, in some cases, doing a lot of the technological work. See, the Greys themselves are actually scientists. They are not engineers. But he is right. They are a small race. I mean, basically, they're 3-4 feet tall, and that's where it ends.
I want to ask you a question, because a lot of people, Keith, claim to see these 2-3 foot orbs by their bedroom windows right before they're taken. And they're taken into this orb. Yet when they enter that orb, inside is about the size of a football field. How does this happen? How is that manipulated?
That is, well, number one, it's done by spatial modification. You're literally talking about, when we talk about pocket dimensions, okay, we are talking about a ship that is designed to handle more room than what is by Terran standards possible. And literally all they're doing is expanding the molecular separation in the ship, making it larger. It's not a different dimension, it's still third dimensional. But they're able to, because of the way technology works, it's kind of, well, let's see, if they're dealing with 3-4 foot orbs, they are likely, I know the rate, give me half a second, this is why I write it all down. We're talking the geckoids, which are a little reptilian race. I just need to figure out what the actual name is again, which is why I write this stuff down. And that doesn't, there we are. There we are, the Zotar. They're just little guys. You know, geckos themselves, the Zotar, are only, quite frankly, they themselves are only, 6 to 8 inches tall. But their ships, because they actually deal with a few other ancient races, they quite literally are able to do what humans would call actual magic. The other races that build these ships for them literally use what humans would classify as true magic to create a space inside that orb that will hold a lot more room, that will hold a lot more stuff than what the physical dimensions would look like.
Right.
It's not really that difficult of a stunt. The Alpha do it all the time. But the Alpha aren't an off-world race.
All right, let's move on to another one here. Gordium wants to know, what about mushrooms being extraterrestrial?
Well, mushrooms themselves are a fungus that grows here. However, the Spironoctin look identical to button mushrooms, except they usually are about 2.5 to 3 inches tall. And they are extraterrestrial. So what they do is they come down here, and if they're trying to figure out what's going on, they'll hide in amongst mushroom packs to watch what's going on. But mushrooms themselves are actually they evolved here.
What on this planet then is, never mind the technology side of everything, but just naturally that is formed here, it comes from out there?
Well, we can safely say Moldavite does. Many of the, especially on the crystal caves, the crystal caves are literally nesting grounds for the Vulcans. Okay. There are many of the elementals that don't exactly come from out there as, how do you put it? They're not Terran, but they jump between planets depending on what's going on. But elementals are a strange race. Never shake hands with a fire elemental. Just a bad idea. As I'm sure you can imagine why. If you take a look at the Chupacabra it wasn't ever belonging here. They've got a few of them on the planet that simply got away. They are former pets.
All right.
Those are some of the obvious ones. And of course, there are Arboreans that are not from here. Trees themselves are from here. But the Arboreans, when they got here, they're actually an ancient race. If you go down to, I think it's actually Borneo, they've got something down there called a walking tree, where they're actual physical trees that they will walk. They just walk extremely slowly.
All right. Lopro is asking, do any extraterrestrials have pets?
Absolutely. When you take a look at the Maldocs, you do not want to see what their pets. Their pets many times make the Maldocs look calm. Okay, there is a common factor there with the Maldoc. The closest thing that somebody's configured is if you watch the show Predator. That is a stylized version of the Maldoc. And some of their pets have the same expandable jaw, which makes it a very violent place to live. So yeah, virtually every race has some pet of their own. Depending on what the race is will determine what type of pets they're dealing with. Even Greys have pets. Which are, in most cases with the Greys, their pets more often than not are domesticated plants. And yes, I did say domesticated plants.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Kaiju wants to know, do you believe ETs killed the dinosaurs to make way for us to be created by them?
No. Dinosaurs themselves evolved. Some dinosaurs evolved into other races, but dinosaurs themselves simply evolved into something else. In most cases, birds. But the ETs had nothing to do with it. That was just a natural, that was just a natural evolutionary thing.
Next question comes from Majdi. What about their food? How do they eat and obtain nutrition?
Well, that depends entirely on which ones we're talking about. Okay. Most of them eat normally. Right. Most of them are that way inclined. If you take a look at the Vecnae, they literally will crush their prey until it's nothing but blood. Blood and liquid food, basically. If you look at the Spirinoctian, they clean up the bits and pieces. They will walk over top of their food and their mouth is actually centered between their inside, sort of, at the top of their four legs. And then of course many of the true humanoid looking ones do happen to be. Many of the true humanoid ones are, what's the word I'm looking for? They literally eat through their mouth. It's just plain normal from their standpoint. I figure while I'm sitting here, I might as well open up that other neat little book I've got. The other one I'm working on. Because there's another race that literally, and I just forget the name offhand, I can find it easy enough. But they literally will grab hold of whatever it is they want to eat, and their stomach evolves out of their forearm to wrap around and dissolve whatever they're wanting to eat.
All right. Paladin wants to know, do the Pleiadians work alone, or are they just part of the Galactic Consortium?
No, they definitely work alone. Well, I shouldn't say they work alone. Quite often they will work with the Greys and they'll work with the Nords. They are members of the consortium, but they have their own agenda, if you will. Pleiadians are true neutral. They're very neutral, very non-prejudiced healers. If somebody's in trouble, they're the ones that will step in, if at all possible, and given that they're not overstepping bounds, to literally open doors. To literally, help people out. Do the healing work, if you will. They're your intergalactic doctors. And they don't care who you are. As long as you're treating them properly, they'll help put you back together.
All right, let's get to another question. Thin Lizzy is asking, what are your thoughts about octopus having ET origins?
Oh, octopus are pets that got away. A lot of the time, the Udina actually have octopodal pets, many of which end up here. But the octopus itself, from a genetic standpoint, my understanding is they evolved here, but because of the appearance of the Udina, they look very similar. And there are some that are here.
Digger Dog wants to know, do you have, out of any races, look like Sasquatch?
That would be called the Wara. And the answer is, yeah, they look very much like the Sasquatch. Very easy to mistake. But the biggest difference between them is if you take a look at the Sasquatch, you look at their head, the top of the Sasquatch head is rounded, the top of the Waran head is more squared off. But they look very similar, have a very similar gait. The biggest difference really is their temperament.
Philip wants to know, are bodies of water used by craft for any reason?
Absolutely. Bodies of water are used to conceal craft when you're entering underground complexes, because humans haven't figured out how to operate it that way yet. Many of the ships will run off of a what humans would call hydroelectric, just far more efficient. They literally will collect up water and utilize it as a power source. But they are not here to wipe out Earth's oceans. That would be akin to somebody blowing up a gas station that they're trying to use for getting gas.
Interesting. All right. Zochito wants to know, are the trumpet-like sounds that come from the sky ET related? I've heard it twice.
Actually, they're not ET related so much as ancient race related. Those trumpet-like sounds that you're hearing, more often than not, are coming from the dwarvish race underground. Although, sometimes you may hear the Angelus, which do actually communicate with your sonic boosters, with your trumpets and what have you. So now the Angelus they are what you would call ET. They're off-worlders. Okay. The dwarvish race evolved here. Well, in all fairness, they were created here. So I mean, it's sort of a yes and a no. It depends on which set. If you're talking about something that sounds like communication, odds are you're dealing with an Angelus, which would be a yes. But if all you're hearing is what sounds more like an echoing rumble, odds are that's coming from the dwarvish race moving things into position.
All right, I'm just looking for more questions here from our audience. And let's see what we got here for you. Sea monsters. Any Lake Superior connection? Is Ogopogo in Extraterrestrial? You live by Ogopogo.
Yeah, and I've actually seen Ogopogo. And no, Ogopogo is a terrestrial dinosaur. Now, can I prove it? No. Somebody else gets to do the proving. But what I saw looks very much like it's a long-necked plesiosaur. Which, yes, I know, was supposed to be extinct about 120 million years ago, but hey, who's counting?
What do you think a lot of these lake monsters, sea monsters are?
A lot of them are, frankly, dinosaurs that people haven't been aware of, haven't realized how they were doing it. And we got to understand that lakes are a lot deeper in most cases than people realize. The other thing you got to remember, especially with the deep water ones, many deep water creatures, because of the way they're built, because of the way they evolved, are almost invisible to the human eye.
All right, moving on. Kaiju wants to know, as we've got about a minute to go here, what cryptids being seen and reported are actually from outer space?
Well, I'm still trying to figure out the skinwalker. From what I understand, I haven't looked into the skinwalkers themselves, but from what I understand, they probably are. Same as Dogman in all likelihood is. The Wara, which are the Sasquatch lookalikes, are certainly from outer space. And there's more of them around here than you care to count. When we take a look at, the Chupacabra is, of course, in all fairness, it didn't come here of its own volition.
All right. Can we sneak in another? Let's try. 5900. Has Keith been approached by the government for information?
Yeah, the CIA. And they showed up on my doorstep looking for me by name, which is really cute when you think I'm up in Canada.
Let's tell that story when we get back.
Okay.
Because that one actually sent me on a little bit of a path. And we can go over that when we come back here on the show, because I think that's an interesting story we should kind of break into a little bit on what happened to you and what has happened to others, because it really does make no sense on what we are doing in Canada, getting American-based alphabet agencies and American-based experiences. R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection. We got the Woo train rolling. We're almost at full steam ahead. The ET Connection happens near the beginning of each month. So sit back, relax, enjoy the woo, because that's what entertains us here nightly on Spaced Out Radio. Hour 2 next. Bigfoot Michigan Rob, thank you for that awesome super chat. Really appreciate that, along with Awesome Cat Chaser, Jeremy, Spooky, Mennonite Abe, Triple Act, Thomas, and Adam. Thank you so much for hanging on out with us. Really appreciate it. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. All right, next question will come from, let's see, where can I base it on? Right there. Low Pro, it'll be yours. So that's where I know where to start. And who else is here? All right. Anybody else joining us here? Hey, Skip to Malou, what's happening?
Hey, would you look at that? Busy night tonight.
Yeah, it's a good night.
Absolutely. Oh, I was referring to my work.
Oh.
Absolutely not one phone call tonight.
Is that a good thing?
Well, the fact that I get paid for it, whether I do anything or not, I'm mixed bag on that one. Makes for a very long night. But it's been a heck of a night tonight so far. I love the questions coming in.
Oh, yeah.
But I need to grab one little detail, so I'll be right back. How's it going, Kenneth?
Good, how are you?
I'm trying to keep it up. We are on here.
I can tell. Why you tell?
Because I'm left.
Because you told me not an hour ago.
Okay, well, good.
Bye.
Ciao. And we are back.
Scary Gary, what's happening? Welcome to our chat room. Hey, B. Hoff, what's happening? Eva, how are you? What are you doing, packing?
Quite literally, yes. The box is a little bigger than what the books are. And therefore, you put plastic bags in to stop them from sliding around too much. This way, tomorrow, I just go down to the whatchamacallit, go down to the post office and send this thing off to you.
Okay. Is it open tomorrow?
Around here it is. I think. I'll find out.
Well, up here, everything's shut down.
Yeah, but we're a little bigger than you, I think.
True. True.
Still got to put an address on that, but that's okay. I've got your address. I know where you live. Only vaguely.
Yeah, we got to get you up here.
Yeah, well, that ain't going to happen in the middle of winter.
No, next spring or something.
Yeah.
Next spring.
Yeah, needless to say, I've become rather, to say the least, a little more reclusive than normal.
We got just over 2 minutes, buddy.
Yeah. No, I was actually offered a shot to go to New York and talk about my books. I told him it wasn't going to happen.
Why not?
I love it. Why not? Yeah. Because they closed the borders, and the only way to get across the border, I'm not about to do.
Oh, yeah. I hear you there.
You know, for me, it's actually been a real benefit. But they did figure out a way to get the information down there. I'm just going to end up working with Liaison in time.
Can't they do it virtually?
That'll be part of the trick. Because I just told them flat out, I will not be, if they ever drop the boundary and the border issue, then it's possible. But without it, I won't be going. You know, but that's just personal opinion on my part. And they were quite happy with that. It's like, okay, well, we'll work around it. Oh, by the way, that race I was referring to that actually pops their stomach out of their forearm, that is the Fuentiran. We've already got, those are in the second volume. And I've already got some of the artwork done for the second volume, but I've decided to focus primarily on getting the first one redone. Right, so I've got all the different races dealt with.
Very cool. Very cool. We got about 35 seconds, buddy.
Yep, not a problem.
Big thank you to everybody who's hit that super chat so far. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis, so thank you so much. Thank you to all the new listeners tuning us in, hitting that subscribe button, ringing that bell. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways, whatever you feel we deserve. And, of course, you can do your shopping at our store on our website, spacedoutradio.com. And here we go with hour 2.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. We want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, Bambosh. Bambosh is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading up on Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show, and our new TikTok channel. We haven't got a video up yet, but soon, Spaced Out Radio. Our website, as I said, spacedoutradio.com. Tonight, we have R Keith Andrews of the ET Connection. It is all about the woo as we have boarded the woo train, answering audience questions to do with everything regarding extraterrestrials, ETs, UFOs, you name it. Yeah, he is an encyclopedia of the weird and strange. R Keith, welcome back.
And thank you for having me.
All right.
As always, it's a pleasure.
Low Pro is asking, are we the aliens to Earth? Are we actually native to this land?
Humans are actually native to Earth. They literally started out here. Now, they have, in all fairness, humans did colonize Mobius. So, technically, what we call Mobians are humans, which means they could quite easily walk around on Earth and you'd never know it. They just need to get a wardrobe makeover first. But no, humans are definitively, from my standpoint, they were created here.
Really? That's what I thought too. Let's get to Whit's question. What do aliens use for money or compensation?
They actually have essentially what would amount to a point system based on hours worked. In other words, if you chalk it up to 1 man-hour of work gives you 1 unit of purchase power. Okay, and that is done through an entirely digital process. And yes, there is this funny little thing called dishonesty and what have you, which usually results in a disaster for the person. But they don't have physical money. There's too many variations, too many variables. Like, some do use different types of money in their own races. But where the consortium is concerned, where the entire conglomeration setup is, that's done on a man-hour base. And they don't bother with, if you're a rocket scientist, you get paid more than you do if you're a dishwasher. Right? If you're a dishwasher, you put a man-hour's work in on a dishwasher, that's as important as the rocket scientist that is spending time in the engine room.
All right, let's move on to another question here, Keith. This one from David. What race built the craft Bob Lazar worked on at S4 at Area 51?
Well, sad to say, not knowing what craft he worked on in the first place makes it a little problematic.
It was a disc-shaped model.
Question. Did it have a bubble on top or essentially a flat top?
Flat.
That's a gray. That's a gray scout ship. Straight out of Zeta Reticuli. It's one of their collection ships. As in, come down, pick up somebody, and take them back up to the mothership for hybridization purposes.
Very cool. All right, Millennium is asking, how should we try to react when meeting ET for the first time?
I would strongly recommend that you do your best to remain calm. They're used to humans reacting as in, oh my gosh, look at the size of that, or that's a weird shape. But because the ETs that do on the whole make contact, usually it's best to do your best to make the strongest effort you can to remain calm about it. Don't go into panic. If they're pulling weapons, odds are they're probably not nice people, and therefore do what you have to keep away from them, as it were. You know, the thing is, if you take a race like the Teklik, if they're coming to collect you up, I wouldn't be gambling on it, right? And because Teklik are a 3.5 to 4.5 foot reptilian, right? They look like a raptor, and they've got the appetite to match. Now, on the other hand, if you're dealing with Strazazians, which are your 7.5 to 8.5 foot reptilian, very gentle individuals, absolutely peaceful, unless you pick a fight with them, which, by the way, is a really bad idea. But on the whole, if you do your best to remain calm, you'll make a whole lot better headway with it. It'll be a lot less stressful for you. But this is why the Greys have a tendency of bringing Nordics with them. Because humans adjust to the Nordic approach easier than they do to the Greys.
Nikki wants to know, do you know where the Thunderbirds live on or in Earth?
In is correct. I'm presuming she's referring to the native Thunderbirds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's in Earth.
Right.
They used to be up in the upper, in like the really tall mountains. Right. But for the most part, they stay inside the Earth at this point.
All right. Right before the break, we were going to be talking about your experience with the CIA.
Yes.
What happened there?
Well, essentially, this woman showed up on my doorstep looking for me by name. Right. And asked, she wanted to talk to me. She claimed she was just an independent researcher. She wasn't working for anybody. Right. And she wanted to talk to me about UFOs. So I went, okay, well, let's go to Tim Hortons. We'll sit down and talk. Right. And as you know, Dave, Tim Hortons is a coffee shop along the same lines as what Dunkin' Donuts in the States is.
Yes.
So we sat down there, and I put my back to the wall, which is just normal for me. And I'm sitting there, she's sitting across the table, and I looked at her before she got very far, and I said, you do realize we're being listened in on. And she starts looking around the room, really panic-stricken. It's like, who's watching us? Who is listening in? And I just shook my head, and I looked at her, and I went, and I pointed over my shoulder. I says, 2 blocks that way. Right. So she turns around, and she puts her hand to her throat, and she mumbled something. Almost sounded like a cough. Brings her hand down and goes, are we still being watched? I looked at her, I went, no. They wandered off. So we carried on with the conversation. And that lasted a couple hours. And then she wanted to get back together the following night. And so she picked me up. I told her, you want to go for coffee? Great. And she says, no, we've got to go up to this mountain. Now, I told her flat out, I don't go outside. I do not go outside much. And she insisted we go out to the mountain. Now, unbeknownst to her, apparently, she picked a mountain that happened to have an underwater base on it, or under it is more to the point. So, of course, she takes me up in the middle of nowhere, and I was not exactly relaxed. So, of course, I'm looking all over the place. While I'm talking to her, I was not looking at her dead in the eye. I'm watching all over the place. And she made the comment at the end of it all. She goes, you're awfully rude when you're talking to me. And I looked at her, I says, really? She goes, well, you weren't even looking at me when I was trying to talk to you. I says, you're the one that insisted I come out in the middle of nowhere where I told you I'm not comfortable to start with. Right. And she says, well, you haven't told me anything that my government doesn't know. I said, okay, so you got one of two choices then. And she goes, what's that? I says, you can either accept the fact that I'm sitting on information that your government doesn't know, or you can accept the fact that your government is stupid. Now, I'm not known as the most politically correct person on the planet. And she just looks at me and she goes, you can't call my government stupid. I says, welcome to Canada. I says, number one, I'm an English major. I learned how. Number two, I think my own government's stupid. What makes you think I'm going to think any more of yours? You know, so she disappeared on me. Like, she went her own way. But it was funny because, I mean, it was kind of a shock in one sense when they showed up on my doorstep looking for me by name. But she was asking about the same kinds of questions that the audience here is asking about.
The one thing that made me intrigued about this story, Keith, is the fact that up here in Canada, where you are, where I am, we do not expect a lot of these alphabet agencies from the United States to come in and question us about this type of phenomena. Yet, we've had your encounter with the CIA. Others have stated that as well. We've had Canadian people experience my labs. We've had Canadian people experience be taken for MK Ultra.
Yeah.
A lot of American top secret programs, which the Canadian government, as far as we know, does not have these programs. So, the more and more I put it together, the more and more I was trying to think about how are they getting the information. And that's how I came up with having a very, very interesting phone call with an RCMP officer here in Canada, in British Columbia. And that's where he told me at the end of the conversation, and I had it confirmed by one of the dispatchers here locally, that every UFO report that is reported to the RCMP immediately gets sent to headquarters in Ottawa, who immediately sends that report to NORAD in Cheyenne, Colorado. And when you fill out an RCMP report, they ask you your full name, phone number, address, date of birth, get your full information. So this is how I'm thinking a lot of the experiencers out there that aren't military connected have been tracked down for these sorts of happenings, shall we say.
Which to me makes total sense. However, that said, just for your edification, the Canadian military does have its own version of MyLab. As far as I'm aware, pretty much every government, that is well evolved, like any of the bigger governments, have their own version of it.
I did not know that.
That's why I figured I'd drop it in your lap.
Do you know where that program is located?
Yeah, but if I were being stupid, I'd actually tell you.
Gotcha. Very interesting. All right. Open-minded Clarity wants to know, do craft have markings that refer to manufacturer, origin, race, or allegiance? And can you share any examples?
Technically, the answer is yes. More often than not, it's really the ship configuration. But some are marked in an interesting pattern of simply the way that the panels are put together, so you know where they come from. But it's not a question of the manufacturer. It is simply what race or what organization they're working with. It's not done by which company built it, because with every one of the member races of the Galactic Consortium, they have a global government, meaning that industry is built by that government, by that race. That ship is built there. And much as there are some races like the Tormenon that will certainly patchwork a ship together. Right. If you're looking at a full ship, they are usually built by one configuration, and that's how you can identify them. Primary example, the flat saucer that you were talking about, the traditional flying saucer. Those are your standard grays. Now, the other one that I was referring to is that saucer shape with a bubble on top. Those are Martokian. They come from literally Mars. And much as Martians are green, they are not little. They're close to the 5.5, 6 foot mark a lot of the time. They're pretty much human size. Then some of you may have seen a stadium shape in what looks like a stadium ship. Okay, very big ship. Looks almost like an old Roman stadium. Right. That's a Moldakian deep range scout ship. Okay. Then you've got your triangular shapes. The triangle ones that we see, those are straight out of the consortium itself. That's a few of the ships that are out there and floating about. Then there's a cute one, which is the Talons, which is it looks almost like it's got legs. They almost appear spider in configuration, unless they're dropping into the water, at which point they fold the legs over top of them and drop into the water.
All right. Let's move on here. Nicola wants to know, we have discovered over 4,000 exoplanets. Are any of them hosting life that has visited us?
Well, I can't tell you which ones that have been discovered, but it would stand to reason that, yeah, undoubtedly, some of the ones that they've discovered have interstellar capable races. My problem is I don't know which exoplanets have been identified. You're looking confused.
No, I'm thinking.
Careful, that usually gets me in trouble.
It does hurt sometimes. I'm not going to lie. It does hurt sometimes. All right, let's move on here. Okay, because a lot of the questions that people have had over time that you've been on this show have to do with themselves. And, either there are people out there who want to make contact, or there are people who have had contact and would like it to stop. Is there any way to, let's start with making contact, and if so, how?
The best way that I know of is, intriguingly enough, it literally boils down to literally keeping in the forefront of your mind that you're looking for an amicable, a functional contact that you can cope with. This pretty much eliminates the issue of just one of the races coming in and deciding your snack food. The idea of using a laser pointer to draw them, it's a cute thought, but, frankly, the light doesn't reach that far. However, the thought that you're trying to make contact, many of the races that do the watching, literally will pick up on the thought waves, and that's what draws their attention.
Crime Web wants to know, who comes in the triangles?
That's the consortium itself. Now, exactly which race is on board which particular ship, I have no way of telling you. It varies. But the triangle ships, those are the consortium. I'm presuming he's referring to the wedge.
What happened in Phoenix then with those boomerang types?
That's what I mean. I'm presuming that's what he's referring to by triangle.
I think he's talking the full triangle.
I do have that listed, but I literally have to go back through my notes to remind myself. I do have them found, them identified. I just can't remember off the top of my head.
Jenny is wondering, Keith, I heard that most ships are built in Mars. Is this true?
Not even close. I mean, yes, the Martokian ships are built there, but most ships are built on their own planet's homeworlds. You know, on their main manufacturing sites.
Skip to Malou wants to know, any ETs we are not allowed to look in their eyes?
Well, it's not usually, well, it depends if we're talking about glancing in their eyes or trying to stare them down. It's a real bad idea to try and stare down a Laborian, because they'll just simply take your throat out and toss it aside. They don't take an eye-to-eye challenge very well. And oddly enough, it's not you're not allowed to look at them, but what humans call Medusa is a real race. They're an ancient race, but you do not want to look in their eyes because very much, it's not that you physically turn to stone, but you do end up completely paralyzed, which doesn't work well for you. So it's not you're told you can't do it, but I wouldn't recommend it.
All right, Pam is asking, who comes in the triangle-shaped silver ships about 25 to 30 feet wide?
That's what we were just talking about the, like I said, we're talking, and I've just got to see if I can track down the answer. I've got both the books open here. I just have to.
Well, while you're looking for that, there's a lot of people, Keith, who believe that these craft are part of the secret space program. These triangles, but they're mainly known as black triangles.
There we are. We'll start with the first part, which, yeah, the triangle ships are very much, they are consortium ships. However, that said, the humans have taken that pattern and put it to use. They do actually copy it. You know, the thing is that that humans use a smaller ship. If you take a look at the wedge-shaped ships, right? They are the really big ones aren't built by humans because humans don't have the technology to keep them flying. Would be the first issue you look at.
Right. All right, we got 25 seconds. Low Pro will get to your question when we kick off the next half hour of Spaced Out Radio, as we have R Keith Andrews here for another hour on the mighty SOR, and we're having a great time tonight enjoying the woo at max capacity. Yes, keep yourself buckled in, because this ride is a wild one, and there are no stops for at least another hour here on Spaced Out Radio. R. Keith Andrews comes in for the ET Connection near the beginning of each month, hanging on out with us, taking us to places and answers that nobody really knows. Enjoy it. It's good fun tonight with Ronald Keith Andrews and the ET Connection on Spaced Out Radio. All right, Keith, we're free.
Perfect.
All right.
I will be right back.
You go, buddy. I got to get caught up in the chat room here. Hi, gorgeous Teresa. Behoff, how you doing?
Okay, Dave, we're back.
No problem.
Yeah, it's going quite quickly tonight.
It is. It's a lot of fun tonight.
It is.
James Smith, how you doing? Welcome to the chat room. Hey, BLB, so much Jake, how you doing? Good to see you. Alien Species, welcome to the chat room. All right, we got 1 minute, Keith.
Not a problem.
Better scroll back up to where the question is. Holy cow, the chat room's moving tonight.
Yeah, you know that too, eh?
Yeah. All right, a big thank you tonight to 5900, Marty, Ibarata, Bigfoot Rob, Cat Chaser, Jeremy, Spooky, Triple Act, Mennonite Abe, Thomas, and Adam for the amazing super chats tonight. Really do appreciate your love and support of Spaced Out Radio. Remember, folks, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store on our website to get your swag and support us that way. Give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways here on YouTube. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We'd really appreciate it. Here we go, everyone, with the second half of the show. Second half of Spaced Out Radio is underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to say hello and remind everybody that you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, Read up on Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection. Happens near the beginning of each month where Keith comes in, hops on the Woo train, and takes us on the ride that none other compares. Yep, Keith is a great guy, lifelong experiencer, and now he counsels people to help with their experiences. Keith, welcome back.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, let's move on here. As Low Pro has a question, do extraterrestrials take vaccinations?
Quite seriously, not the way you think. They do have a decontamination system that they use. But as far as enter in amongst themselves, the answer is no. Most of them have this idea that if they get sick and die because they're sick, then they probably shouldn't have done whatever they were doing. But where it comes to dealing with other races, they absolutely have a decontamination system. But it's more of a mist that you walk through and that settles on you. Settles on you that you end up breathing in. But it's a standard protocol for interspecies regulation.
All right, let's move on here to our next question. So Cheeto wants to know, do alien races live in the pyramids?
To the best of my knowledge, no, but I will tell you the hieroglyphs are more than just hieroglyphs. That is an entire communication network that is set up on a subquantum subharmonic level that are used from a communication standpoint that reach far further than what modern telephones and modern satellite work.
Solar Warden wants to know, lots of talk about Antarctica, but what about any ET and or human-related ET operations in a place like Greenland?
Absolutely. Some of the races actually prefer the cold, and Greenland does provide a fair chunk of it. You can find ETs of various races on virtually every continent. And yeah, I realize that Greenland is not a continent. It's just an oversized island. But it's, are there races that are up there? I have no doubt about that at all. Can I give you specifics on them at this point? No.
Mondak wants to know, so every being is paid the same in units. What do they do for fun and leisure?
That depends on the race. But it ranges from sports events very similar to what mankind uses. Depending on the race, it can be a whole lot more volatile. When you watch the original Star Trek, when they had three-dimensional chess, there is another form of three-dimensional chess that they use in the professional circuits that is best quantified as fourth dimensional or phase chess, where you can move a piece into into a given location, and with a specific maneuver, you can get it to phase out of existence so you can't see it. So if you're not tracking the moves yourself, you can be caught off guard really quickly.
David is saying, I woke up once, felt like I was having a heart attack. I shot out of my body across the sky and into a room where an alien in a lab coat was staring at me. What is that all about?
Oh, that's called astral abduction. Guess I could have walked into that a little calmer, couldn't I?
Break it down for us.
Ultimately, what they did, if you were shot out that fast, what they likely did was grabbed quite literally you, as in your soul, without damaging you, pulled you up to get a reading on the auditory and on the photonic level of your being to track what was going on. They're doing some sort of research on the subquantum level, and you were in all likelihood a lucky recipient. Well, I don't know if I'll call that lucky, but you get the idea.
All
and
right.
yes, that happens more often than people care to think.
All right, I'll answer this one. Jeremy asking that Belgium Triangle photo, do you think it's legit? I have seen the photo. I believe there's a video that goes along with that, Jeremy, too. And I think that one was classified as debunked, if that's the same one I'm thinking of. If it's different, I apologize. But I know there's one that looks exactly like that. It also came in a video form, and it was CGI. So if we're thinking of the same one here, great. If not, I apologize, and I'll look into it further. All right, Game Vet is asking, and welcome to the show, Game Vet. Where does the triangle-shaped craft with a hole in the center of the bottom come from?
That almost looks that almost sounds like a variation on the Corlock ship. I'm not honestly 100% certain, so I'm going to make a note of it and see what I can find out. If I figure out who it belongs to, then I will simply include it in the books.
All right, let's move on. I'm sorry, you're looking. I apologize.
Well, actually, when I referred to, I was going to look in, and I will deal with them and talk to them and see what I come up with. Because I'm not entirely certain if I've run across that, but then I haven't seen every ship out there either. But it does stand to reason, from my standpoint, it's most likely a new form or a variation on the Corlock standard ship. The Corlock standard ship, if you watch Space Odyssey 2001, that ship they show, that's a Corlock ship. Yeah, you got to think back. That was a ways ago.
All right. So Cheetle is asking, is Moldavite really from space, and is it really as powerful as they say?
I don't know what they say, but number one, is it really from space? The answer is yes. It's asteroid. Is it as powerful as they say? Not knowing how powerful they say it is, I can tell you, it is extremely useful. From my standpoint, I use it all the time to help me walk, which might give you an idea.
Awesome. Michael is asking, witnessing is one thing, but Keith, is this all about belief or faith? Love the show.
I appreciate the support. In all fairness, the witnessing side of it, yeah, where it comes to, is it about belief or faith? From my standpoint, I've had way too many cases where I've had physical side effects. Okay, to take it right out of just belief. Part of it absolutely will have to be faith for people that have not physically witnessed it themselves. Because unfortunately, coming up with absolute proof is a little problematic.
Joe wants to know, can the Greys swim? How come nobody ever reports an alien swimming?
Well, because the answer to the first part of the question is, not that I'm aware of. Something to do with what's in the water on their planet does not afford the idea of swimming. It's kind of like nicking yourself and jumping into the Amazon River on Earth. It's just a bad idea. So no, the Greys on the whole do not know how to swim. Okay, and the reason nobody ever tends to report alien swimming is because usually when aliens are coming to Earth, they're not coming down for recreation. And the ones that are here that swim do so far under the surface of the water that humans don't see them.
I like Braslov's question. Spaced Out Radio, do you ever have SOR dreams?
I could take that to a really bad direction. We're just not going to do that.
Oh, my goodness. Let's just say that the show piques my interest. Pam McSee, so the small black triangle ships are probably us. What about the silver ones again?
And again, like I said, the silver triangle, I was looking at that, and I just looked that up. I actually tracked it while we were there. The Zerondar, okay, those are the ones that have the actual triangle ships. Thought I had it listed here. They are, they've, and that's only a recent addition. But it's kind of funny because the Zerandar they themselves are they're almost triangular in shape themselves, which is why they've taken to using their own ships. This is something I only just, quite frankly, found out, which is why, for those of you that already have the book, wait a minute here. No, that's the volume coming up. The Zerandar are in volume 2. Well, I only just found out about their ships.
I like Jenny's question. Keith, do you have any info about the Black Pyramid found inside a mountain in Alaska? Supposed to be a charging station for UFOs.
Not only is it a charging station, it's a communications relay beacon. It's used specifically for aligning wormhole jumps outside of Pluto's orbit. Basically, what it boils down to is you bounce off that beacon in order to fire up the wormhole, basically what mankind would call a Stargate, although it's not a physical construct.
All right, let me see if I can find more questions here. I'm trying to get through a very busy chat room tonight, and I know I'm missing
Which is always
some.
a good sign.
It is a good sign. All right, new listener, Leanda Watermaiden, would like to know, why aren't they, the extraterrestrials, capable of healing themselves?
Actually, they are.
Do they choose not to?
No, if they didn't heal themselves, there'd be a lot more dead aliens we'd find. Now, granted, there are some races that if they get wounded, they will terminate you. Many of the reptilian-style races, literally, if you get wounded to the point that you can no longer do your job, you're either put on the dinner table or tossed into the fusion reactor, depending on what killed you. But no, every race that I'm aware of, almost every race, have medics of their own for their own race. It's just a question of the xenomedical that they have trouble with.
All right, Kaiju is asking, what's the purpose of crop circles, and who is doing the cattle mutilations?
Well, the crop circles are the easy point. They are actually, for the most part, communication beacons. I mean, I was showing one that was very much, it was literally, this is where the jump point is. It's kind of like leaving a message behind on your way by. Right, because the crop circles most of them are actually visible from orbit. Right. As far as the cattle mutilations go, that seems to be a very, there seem to be a few races involved in that. But for the most part, it's because of a medical approach. I mean, I do know that the Brahmin have a tendency, and the Brahmin aren't off-worlders, they're from here. Sorry, that is wrong. But they are a bovine Gron. There we go. They look kind of like a Brahmin, but the Gron are what humans would call minotaurs. They're not actually as stupid as what people think. But they are known for it because they're trying to get an understanding of their history. It's kind of like humans looking at apes.
All right, let's go to Mondak's question. Which race screwed or screws with the nuclear ballistic missiles?
Oh, that's the consortium itself. But they only do that when mankind gets stupid enough to start lighting it up to try for a nuclear war. Not to deal with they don't do it to stop nuclear testing or nuclear research. But the consortium is here to protect Earth, not the people on Earth.
All right, R. Keith from the Michael Leger. How do they contact you?
Most of the time, if we're talking about just contact, quite often it's telepathic, but more often than not, they physically take me topside. Okay, topside as in up into orbit. And I've had enough potassium crashes to know that that's pretty much as solid as it gets. And as I told you before, Dave, even my youngster has come to the conclusion this happens way too frequently. But at this point, he's just like, okay, it's happening. I'll see you when you get back tomorrow. You know, that's when you know it happens way too frequently.
All right, let's move on here. Ozzy Ange is asking, Keith, do you know anything about the boomerang craft with the large light in the front of the nose?
Well, the large light is simply a searchlight. As for the large boomerang shaped craft, those are literally tied to the consortium, but those ones are not used. The big triangles, or boomerangs rather, are not used for collection. They are used for surveillance.
Whit wants to know, why haven't we been back to the moon?
Well, you're going to love this one, but we have. Multiple times. Yes, people keep saying we're not there, but, quite frankly, that's kind of like, in my eyes, that's kind of like telling me the sun doesn't rise. It's just, man, human governments don't want you knowing that they're still going.
All right. This reaction to a question Leanda asked you earlier about aliens healing themselves. She said, but you said if they get sick, that they think they probably shouldn't have been doing that, so it's kind of contradictory, isn't it?
No, because, see, when we're talking about doctors, when we're talking about repairing, if you catch a flu, right, or something to that effect, then, quite frankly, that's what they're referring to. If you damage yourself, if you hurt yourself, as in get a pretty severe cut or burn, they've got doctors to deal with it. But most of the illnesses, like they deal with worrying about about illnesses interspecies, but they don't have a whole lot that they worry about because most of the off-world races have developed an immune system for their own issues. Because of modifications in diet and what have you, they don't tend to get sick very often. So they haven't got, it's not like Earth that's got a major pharmaceutical factory going on. They just don't need them. They rely more on proper eating than they do on modification.
Okay, let's move on here and get to 5900. Which alien race loves rock and roll?
Well, can't call them alien, but humans do seem to have a penchant for it. Other than that, it's personal choice. I've met some spare knocked in that just absolutely have a riot with it. The Vecnae are another race that tend to play really well, and we're talking about the upbeat rock and roll, not the heavy metal or hard rock style, because they react more to the vibratory rate of the music. But it's an individual thing.
All right, let's continue on here. David is wondering, why do encounters seem more prevalent after hypnagogic dream states?
Because after the hypnagogic dream state, you tend to be a little bit more aware of it. Okay, because after that dream state, your brain tends to pick it up. It tends to remember it easier. Net result, you remember the contact more readily. It's not so much it happens more often, you're just more aware of it.
All right. Michael wants to know, Keith or Dave, had aliens talk or contacted you in your daylight hours?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
right smack in the middle of a conference I was at one day.
I blame Samantha Mowat for mine.
I don't.
Well, I know you don't. You're just a weirdo that way.
Well, that I will agree with wholeheartedly.
All right. Carbines, right, wants to know, do you know anything about the 1976 Canary Island UAP sighting?
No, but I certainly know about the Canary Island issues. In all fairness, sadly, I am a lousy researcher. I haven't looked into any of them.
Yeah, that's not really like specific. I will say to our audience, you're not really into specific incidents and specific people. You're more into the type of research that the ETs give you personally.
Ultimately, yes. The xenosocioeconomic translations. You know, triphasic communication lines and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Acreon wants to know, as we got just under 2 minutes, consortium is the same called the Federation or the Council of Saturn?
Some people would refer to it as, I've heard some people refer to it as Federation, yes. As far as the Council of Saturn goes, that's a whole different council. You know, that because there's many councils in the consortium to handle different odds and ends. But the Council of Saturn is literally targeting Saturn and the surrounding area.
All right, let's sneak in Ian's question here. We use 24-hour clocks. What do ETs use in space? Do they measure time differently? Good question.
No, they measure time essentially the same way, just with a different marker. But they use galactic rotation on the galactic plane, starting from the galactic center.
All right. Quick one from Fapster here. Did the aliens take flight MH370?
In my opinion, Flight 370, they didn't take. Okay, it hit a pocket wormhole. And wormholes are an absolute royal pain in the neck if you're not designed for them.
Quickly.
And do I know exactly where it went? No.
Ange in Australia came in late. What is the consortium? 20 seconds.
The Galactic Consortium is the governing body that handles all of the different races coming into the area. And they literally govern what's going on as far as off-world interaction and humans go. So they're the ones to make sure that no alien race comes in to try and take over Earth. Earth, from that standpoint, is protected because humans are the caretakers of Earth.
Wonderful. Thanks, Keith. We got R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned. Then we got the fedora-wearing John Hudson for the UFO Report. Here we go. Buddy, I got to hit the bathroom, so please bear with me here.
Absolutely.
All right.
Well, it is certainly proving to be a very active night. I don't know if you can hear me, so I may well be talking to myself. But the questions have been just absolutely fantastic. And yes, the reality of it is I don't research what I'm doing. The information that I am recording, that I'm quantifying, is all done on first-hand experience. And the reason I don't question it is because of the number of times that I've had people that have corroborated what I've gone through. Not the least of which has been missing time, hitting wormholes, having physical marks left over from being taken. I had one case where I was literally witnessed dropping back into my bedroom from the ceiling. This is why I don't question why it's real anymore. Couple that with my father actually telling me on his deathbed that everything I had experienced, everything that I remembered, was absolutely real. Now, can I talk to him? Well, personally I can, but I can't prove it. As I said, he passed away a few years back. And this is why I tell people, people have asked me multiple times, have you got pictures? Have you got any evidence? And the answer is, I've only got one picture. Okay. And do I know exactly where it is right offhand? No. But that was from a very long time ago.
All right.
You bet.
We got a couple minutes. Out of my second cup of water.
Yeah, I was told the amount of coffee I drink because of the weakness of it. The hospital nutritionist I went to told me, don't worry about the coffee you're drinking because basically you're drinking water. It's just got a little different flavor than chlorine.
God, if I showed you the list of beverages that I'm allowed to drink on my diet, you'd stick with water too.
Oh, that bad, eh?
Oh my God, it's terrible.
Yeah, I got a kick out of it. I read from somebody at one point, they were talking about diets. It's like the old idea of if you don't eat as much food, you'll lose weight doesn't work. Well, let's face it, that's just wrong.
You're wrong.
I probably am.
I'm teasing. All right. I want to say a big thank you to 5900, to Marty, Ibarata, Bigfoot Rob, Cat Chaser, Jeremy, Spooky, Mennonite Abe, Triple Act, Thomas, and Adam for the amazing super chats tonight. Very much appreciate the love and support of Spaced Out Radio. Don't forget, you can also support us by giving us a thumbs down, thumbs up, whatever you want to do. And, of course, you can hit that subscribe button, ring the bell. We are here 7 days a week for your listening entertainment. And we have a lot of fun doing this show, and that's why we continue so hard and so passionately about what we do. Thank you to all the veterans who are tuning us in tonight. Remember, you always have a safe home here on Spaced Out Radio in our chat room. And, of course, to all the regulars who are here, a lot of familiar faces haven't seen in a while. Good to see all of you. This is a big family here. We absolutely love that you are here as well. So we're going to get going here in about 45 seconds. All right. One more commercial.
Yeah, commercials are so much fun. But I realize you've got to have them, so,
Yeah, I hear you. All right, let's get ready to go here. All right, here we go. Horns up.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Just go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Bambosh. Bambosh is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading up on Shirky Poo's Newswire, and you can check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. For the final time tonight, we introduce R Keith Andrews. The ET Connection happens near the beginning of each month, where Keith comes in and talks about the who, what, where, when, why, and how of UFOs, aliens, and everything weird and strange. Yes, jump aboard the woo train for this one. Keith, welcome back.
Thank you very much for having me, and welcome back to all the people that are joining us still.
All right, Kaiju wants to know, are there any Hollywood alien creations that look very similar to real ETs?
The answer to that is definitively yes. Give me half a second. I actually called that up. I saw that question in there, so I figured best be doing that. Okay, right off the bat, alien from the stars Sigourney Weaver. If you remove the internal elongating jaw, you've just about got a bang-on marker for the chick-chock. They are very ascetic and extremely hostile. And even the way they lay out the reproductive system is right. Then you've got, from the movie Arrival, the Udina. Okay, and they're what they show you with regards to the writing is as close to right as you're going to get on video. Because it's not just a simple ring that they put up on glass. It's actually a three-dimensional thing that is done in the open air, or open water, depending on how you look at it. Then you've got your Tormenon, which if you watch Jupiter Ascending, it'll give you a real good look at them. Okay, and of course the Muldock, the Muldock are very similar to what they show you on Predator. Except with Predator, they've got the upper jaw extending as well. And the Muldock don't actually have the upper jaw extending, like fanning out. And you'll love this one. This is the one that most people don't get. But the Econ and the Ecotl, Star Trek fans would recognize them as Tribbles and Tribble Eaters. But they are very real, and yes, they do reproduce that fast. Their main source their main food source on their planet. And then I've got to double check, but what the heck was it called? I've written the wrong name of the movie down, but I have seen a picture of the Burundi and the Burundigar. Okay, on some movies, I just have to go and find out which one it was again. Oh, I think it was Descendants 2 is where I saw that one. And, well, the Burundigar. The Burundi, if you watch, what the heck was the name of it? Harry Potter. I forget the little guy's name, but that little goblin, that's a Burundi. But that's some of the races that show up quite nicely.
Okay, let's move on. Joe has a question. Are there any alien races that look like plants or trees? Do they hide in plain sight?
Try that again? Yeah. Well, the Arborians look like trees. There are also little Arborians that look like other plants, like ferns. Some of your woody plants may well be Arborian. Your Spearnoctin look like the little button mushrooms. Your Vecnae look like similar to some of the spiny vines that we see. thing is, with most of those, yeah, they will definitely hide. Those are actually, by the way, well, the Spirnoctin and the Vecnae are alien. They don't come from here. The Arborians actually evolved on Earth. But I'm getting into finding the other ones that are also plant-like. I'm missing one, and I'm trying to remember what the heck the name of it was, which is why I'm going back to it. Volume 2, that is... Let's shrink that down, because there's one other one that I know of that it kind of looks like a green onion, in all fairness. And yes, I know that sounds completely whacked. But hey, there we go. The Tolek. Which look very similar to a green onion, except one small little detail. Right, and that little detail being they're a whole heck of a sight larger. You know, the neat part about it is a lot of the plant life like that, yes, it could hide in plain sight. Yeah, like the Tolek, they look like green onions, but they're like 8 feet tall. They might stand out in your garden.
All right. Let's go over to Michael. R. Keith, what's the nicest thing an alien ever did for you?
That's a bit of a toss-up, but I mean, I've had more than enough of them back me up. I think the most prominent one was the day Srazazian actually saved my life. I'm still debating whether that was nice or not, but, you know. Yeah. You get the idea there. But most people would say that was probably the nicest thing. You know, but, I mean, I've had them give me tours of ships. I've had them, you know, deal with, you know, like, for instance, when you look at the Kinlar, right, they're a lovable little bunch. They're violent as all get out, but if you get on their good side, they're actually decent people.
All right, let's continue on here. Game Vet. Do you think ETs, or do the ETs think it is racist to call them aliens? Can we have
Absolutely.
Can I finish? You don't mind?
Sorry. Yeah.
Can we have a live interview with one?
Yeah, good luck with that thought. As far as do they think it's racist? Absolutely not. See, according to the off-worlders, if you're not born on a given planet, you're alien. If you're not born in a given country, you're alien to that country or alien to that land. So, no, it just simply describes what they are, or more to the point, what they aren't. So they certainly, on the whole, do not take offense to it.
All right, let's continue on. Solar Warden wants to know, Mr. Andrews, are you familiar with the race of ETs that speaks a language that sounds like Higher Hungarian and who like Tibetan-type music?
Well, I would love to say yes. My problem is I don't know what Higher Hungarian sounds like. That being said, the Yumion undoubtedly like Tibetan-type music. That's I presume the cymbals and bells and that sort of thing. If I remember what Tibetan music sounds like. But that's probably the Yumian are one race that would absolutely take to it.
All right. Let's move on here. Steven wants to know, Keith, how many gray species are we in contact with, roughly?
Well, species is a toss-up, but there are at least 15 different colors that I'm aware of. 15 different colors, minor modifications to skeletal configuration, but still the same species. There's actually two distinct runs of them. There's the scientists and there's the controllers. But, like I said, they come in multiple colors, multiple minor skeletal modifications, much like humans come in multiple colors and skeletal configurations.
Fu Man Derp wants to know, what can Keith tell us about the Ashtar group?
I suspect, I've heard that, if I remember correctly, most of the time I hear it as Ashtar Command. And that's a subcommittee inside the consortium. They answer directly to the Council of 12, but they are focused primarily on communication lines and scientific interaction, as in interspecies scientific evolution.
Where are they out of?
They are, like I said, they're a subgroup of the consortium itself. I'm wondering if he's referring to the Ashtar Radio Command.
No idea. You're supposed to know that.
Well, yeah, you do remember I'm not a controlled telepath, right? Yeah.
True. Acreon is asking, the power to manipulate matter you said we have, that it's psychokinesis, cause the move with the hands, even I do, could explain it a bit further, and elemental magic without technology, what you know we can do. What's your thoughts?
Absolutely. That is the baseline of it. Because once you realize that the only difference between picking something up, the only difference between picking something up physically and picking it up from across the room, functionally it's the distance. It's still one molecule to the next. And for anybody that wants to give it a shot, if you take your hands and you put them an inch, half an inch to an inch apart, you'll feel energy between them. It's that energy that you focus with and you build it up and you can actually get it to work. Now, am I a fully controlled telekinetic at this point? No. But I do know somebody who can send sonic shockwaves across a glass of water quite nicely. Also know a chap that can start fires just by thinking about them. But it boils down to molecular manipulation. And yeah, anybody can teach themselves to do it. But it's a question of realizing it's not like you can grab hold of a truck and pick it up and throw it across the room. That's the stuff that becomes Hollywood. Is it possible to get to that level? Absolutely. Because there's been lots of situations where people have been witness to, frail people picking up a car and rolling it over to get somebody that was in trouble out from under it. And this is just another way of modifying the molecular density. It's the same technique used to walk through walls. It boils down to humans are taught that things are solid. And frankly, they aren't. There's space between the molecules. Once you realize that, you can start modifying what's going on around you. Okay, most people are literally taught it's not possible. That's why they refuse to let it happen.
All right, let's move on here. April, May, June is asking, what are your thoughts on walk-ins?
Very real. And that's an orchestrated setup that happens between two souls. One soul comes into the body to start with, but its entire reason for coming is to experience only the birthing process up to a certain point. The second soul that arranges before the first one is born, before the first body is born, the second soul gets together with them and says, look, when you hit X number of years old, I'm going to swap places with you because I don't feel like going through the birthing process again, and I'll just take over from there if that's okay. So they come to an agreement, and there's a distinct swap. When it happens, there's a distinct swap in not necessarily, well, usually it's personality swap. Memory can be completely scrambled, and the person will take on all sorts of different quirks. Like, it becomes pretty obvious to the people that know them well, but not always. But walk-ins are very real. But a walk-in is very different from a hijacking. And yes, that can happen as well. Okay, a hijacking is also what many people refer to as a possession. But walk-ins are a voluntary swap.
Makes sense. Okay, let's go over to Sovereign. How fast can malevolent alien races build a subterranean base or city?
Well, that depends on whether or not the planet they're trying to build it on is stable and whether or not it's inhabited. They can build them literally, if they're moving into an uninhabited asteroid, they can literally build a full-size station in under a day. Okay. If it's occupied, they have to take into consideration that there is tectonic upheaval that happens if you do it too fast. So it can take a fair piece of time. Basically, what they do is they pick a cave that's already there and then work in from there.
All right, let's go to Thin Lizzy. Do aliens have disputes or war with other races?
Absolutely. The Strazazians and the Teklak have been at war with each other for centuries. This is why I say aliens, the only difference between them and humans is the type of toys they've got. The Teklak themselves are at war. They've got a civil war going on. When you take a look at the Venusians and the Martokians, they actually have an alliance. They aren't at war with each other. They've got an actual alliance with each other. The Strazazians and humans have an alliance. And yes, that does mean we've got reptilians on Earth that are working with humans.
Okay. How often does that happen?
I've never seen it stop. So,
All right.
I mean, every now and again you'll get a war that stops because one race ends up dead and that solved that problem. But unlike human wars where people get to a point where they go, we're not fighting anymore, unfortunately, the so-called more advanced races, I'm talking technologically advanced, don't seem to have this idea quite right where, oh, we should stop fighting. It would be nice if they would.
But they won't. They never
I'm not
do.
expecting it anytime soon.
They never do.
Well, like I said, the wars usually stop when one side is dead. But you got to remember, off-worlders, when they go to war, they don't have rules that you can't shoot when there's certain circumstances going on. Their idea is, if you're going to war, the idea is win. Wipe out whatever you're going to war against. You don't have this issue of, oh, we've got a certain amount of firepower we can use. He who has the biggest guns makes the biggest holes.
Okay. We've only got about 4 minutes left with you, Keith. Let's try and get a couple more questions in. Sovereign wants to know, Keith, do you accurately know the timeline of the Anunnaki history and how they're genetically created a slave race for all sorts of physical labor?
Number one, the Anunnaki didn't build, as far as I know, I'm presuming this person is referring to humans being built by the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki were here, okay, but they didn't build the human race. So, as far as accurately goes, I cannot put it in Terran terms, which would be the biggest problem. But I can tell you that they do come back on a regular basis. But they are not, as far as them building races for physical labor, for finer points, they certainly hire other races, but as far as I'm aware, they've never built any, and they certainly did not build the human race for any functional reason. Well, they didn't build them at all.
All right. Fidgety wants to know, Can the Arborean move around? Could that explain the moving tree mystery?
Absolutely, they can move around. If you watch The Lord of the Rings, I forgot about that one, which is sad. You watch The Lord of the Rings and you look at Treebeard, meet an Arborean, tree style.
What about Wizard of Oz?
Trying to think which trees were in the Wizard of Oz.
All of them, when they're going down the Yellow Brick Road where they find Tin Man.
That's a good point. The apple trees and what have you that were throwing the apples at them.
Yes.
It's been a while since I've seen the Wizard of Oz, and the answer is yes.
Still one of my favorite movies.
Absolutely.
Still one of my favorite movies.
I still like the idea of the witch, but
All right, Stephen wants to know, what do you know about Arcturians? I think I've seen a ship.
Arcturians are an interesting race, and I've got a whole pile of information on them. But they are humanoid. They are a peaceful race on the whole, but very intellectually based. They should be right here. That's the Anunnaki. And watch this. There we are. Okay, you're definitely looking at a race. They are essentially, from a governmental standpoint, socialist with a military focus. Okay, they are absolutely focused on physical construction and technology, that sort of thing. Like, they pride themselves on their workmanship.
All right, final question tonight, Keith. Thin Lizzy, do you think aliens wish they could grow awesome facial hair like you, Keith, and me?
Well, some of them, the answer is yes. If you talk to the dwarves, which are an ancient race, they have nothing. We have nothing on them. But thank you very much.
Keith, tell everybody where they can find your information.
Easiest place to find it is if you go to YouTube and you look at my YouTube channel, Inner Voice Enterprises, you'll find a whole list of ways of getting a hold of me. On Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. Usually it's under R Keith Andrews or under Inner Voice Enterprises.
Very cool. Buddy, it's always a pleasure to have you on Spaced Out Radio. Always appreciate you so much.
Well, definitely enjoy being here. I cannot believe the length of time we've been here. But tonight has been absolutely fabulous. The questions coming in were phenomenal.
They really were. They really were. And we thank our audience for their participation all night long. R. Keith Andrews and the ET Connection happens the first week of every month here on Spaced Out Radio. We love it when Keith comes in and drives the Woo Train wild and right off the tracks. Coming up next, fedora-wearing John Hudson is here for the Unbiased UFO Report. We got Shirky Poo's news and the thought of the day. Stay tuned. We continue right after this. Great show, buddy. Great show.
Went really well. Really happy with the way that one went.
That was fun. That was fun. Really appreciate that. Really appreciate that.
I cannot believe how long we've been at this. You know that?
I know. It's cool. It is very cool. Was that your chair squeaking or mine?
Yes. No, that was mine.
Okay. Just making sure. Man, I got to be up at 6:30. I got to go to Clearwater for my son has 2 hockey games, then drive to Abbotsford.
Oh, joyful.
Yeah.
Better you than me.
Yeah. Joyful is correct. Joyful is correct. May stop in Kamloops for a little bit. I could use some Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting way more reclusive lately. My ex actually showed me how to do my grocery shopping online, so I don't even have to go to the grocery store much.
Oh, my God. I don't even want to try that.
Which, shopping on Amazon, you mean? Or going to the grocery store?
Both. See,
I went to a grocery store just the other day, and there were only like 8 people in it, including the staff. And unfortunately, I got,
I remember when I lived in Mission, quickly here, because I do got to get John in. I remember
Yeah.
when I lived in Mission and I was still single. Sunday night was always single dad's night at Save On Foods. Okay.
Right.
You know, and that because, I mean, we all worked during the week, and then Sunday night the kids either went back to mom's house or you know, whatever the story was, so you'd see a bunch of single dads. Well, one night I got caught behind a bunch of couponers. I'll tell you, I've never seen something more evil in life than getting stuck in a lineup behind a bunch of couponers taking up 2 rows of tills, and there's only 2 people on the tills. The single dads were ready to brawl. It was almost brawl night.
Joyful.
Yeah, it happened 2 weeks in a row. 2 weeks in a row. The second week, they finally opened up a third and fourth till, and I'll tell you, the screaming that was happening in that place from all the single dads, we were going nuts. We were going haywire.
Yeah, I mean, it can get a little carried away, but
That is a nightmare. Keith,
yeah, no doubt.
Keith, buddy, I got to run. Got to get John in.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
My brother, we'll talk soon, okay?
Absolutely.
Take care.
You too. Have a good one.
Much love, buddy. R Keith Andrews, everybody, and the ET Connection. Love him. Absolutely love him. Oh, there's the fedora-wearing John Hudson.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
You must be having some humidity there. Your hair is wild today.
Oh, no. It's actually quite cold here. Well, I mean, cold for California.
What is cold, John? Tease me a little bit.
Anything below 70.
You are a sick, sick man. You know what I would do in 70 degrees? I'd wear shorts, flip-flops, and a T-shirt.
Exactly. That's the whole reason why we like it, that temperature.
You know,
I always tease my friends on the East Coast. I'm like, you know when you guys have to like put your motorcycles, drain them, put them up for storage? Not here. We ride our bikes on Christmas Day. It's like,
you're terrible. Terrible. Reborn from Ash, how are you? We got about a minute and a half here, dude.
No worries.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, I missed the show tonight because I was hanging out with my daughter. How'd it go?
Very
Fun
well.
stuff?
Very
Good.
well.
He's always a kick.
Love Keith. By the way, it's 35 degrees Fahrenheit, 2 degrees Celsius here right now.
Jesus Christ. You know, people are not supposed to live in that kind of weather. It's not good for them.
I'm telling you right now, that is nice temperature, man. It is a nice temperature. The air is nice and clean. All right, a big thank you to $5,900 Marty, Ibarata, Rob, Cat Chaser, Jeremy, Adam, Thomas, Triple Ack, Mennonite Abe, and Spooky for the amazing super chats. Thank you so much for your love and support. Thank you to everyone who's hit that subscribe button tonight and rang that bell and given us a thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever you decide. You can do it. And 51 degrees is shorts weather. I'm just telling you right now. And, so disappointing. I can't even continue. Go shopping at our store on our website. Maybe you'll find some shorts for John. All right, here we go, buddy. Rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Keep up to date with Shirky Poo's news. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on Twitch at Spaced Out Radio. It is time once again for the fedora-wearing John Hudson and the UFO Report. Yes, it's all things woo tonight as we continue on with the UFO Report. John Hudson has us all set up. John, it's always good to have you here, my friend.
Always good to be here. Thank you, everyone, for sticking around. I do appreciate it after getting your head full of Keith tonight. So,
right. All right, we're going to kick things off. Christopher Sharp, blogger, journalist, who is he? And tell us about the article he wrote.
Well, in full disclosure, he is. I don't know if he's the only. Well, I assume he is the only one. He's actually the editor of the Liberation Times, so he doesn't normally do any writing for them. But he's been wanting to, and so this is kind of a big step out for him. And it's just a fantastic read. He does it's long, but it needed to be, and he does a great job. Basically, what he did is he did exactly what I would have done if I had a longer time on this show. He basically just went through John Ramirez's entire presentation and just called out each part that he thought was important and critical. And so it's probably something everyone should have next to them while they're looking at the slides. It's a good one. It's a good thing. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to call out two things that are essentially about the presentation, but are also called out in Christopher's article. And that is that when I mentioned the other day that Mr. Ramirez had made a comment about the fact that the word hybrid was not in the schedule yet, he actually went on further to say that what we are witnessing is not disclosure, but scheduled dissemination. And I think that's a very important distinguishing characteristic to notice. And I think that if you look at what's going on and view it as scheduled dissemination, and he went on to say, meaning that things need to be set up before other things can be revealed, essentially. And this is what he said in the interview. I think that paints a very, very clear picture of what's going on the government side of things. And I'd be curious to see what you think of such a thing, Dave.
I really don't know. You kind of blew my mind the other night talking about John Ramirez, and you and I had a private conversation about that. And, just the fact that he's really deep into the technology and what we're saying that we're not witnessing any sort of disclosure. I've always said it seems more of a confirmation, and very up to date on what these narratives are. I mean, I want to find out more about this guy. I want to try and get him on this show.
Yeah, no, we need to, and he's he like I said, I've been talking to him, off and on for a couple months now, on this sideline chat, and honestly, when he first came into our little group, a lot of us were very skeptical of him, and it's taken him some time to prove himself to all of us. But the other two things I want to call out before we move on is one is that on Reddit, someone reported today that someone I believe on Reddit that is at a significant level in the DoD was able to actually confirm John Ramirez's career background, which I wasn't at all worried about. I believe from the comment that Bob McGuire made that Bob McGuire has actually heard of him and is aware of his work. And I know that at some point John Ramirez actually interacted with Semivan while inside, and so there's a lot of people that should be able to confirm his identity, but his identity has at least been confirmed by one person as far as what his career was and what he did. And then the last thing I want to bring up, which I should have brought up the other day, and I apologize to everyone because this to me is a significant thing, and that was because it caught me off guard when he said it. He said that he feels that the James Webb Telescope might be a breaking point for all of this. And what he means by that is that he believes that there's a chance, he doesn't know this for sure, this is just his hypothesis, that there might be things in space that the James Webb Telescope will be directed at intentionally as a way of essentially drawing attention to something that's coming or something that's happening. That the James Webb Telescope might be that dam that breaks, that really releases a lot of information.
Does John
And
Ramirez
that
have
surprised
that?
me.
Does John Ramirez have that much knowledge and power?
Well, he retired in 2009. And so one of the things that he makes very clear in his presentation, which I absolutely adored about him, was he makes very clear what he says he knows, and what his guesses are, his hypothesis, and that falls completely under his hypothesis. That's not based on any specific knowledge about the James Webb. That's just based on his 25 years on the inside, knowing how things work, and saying, that sounds to me like a tipping point.
Very interesting. Well, John, we're going to use your connection. Try and get him on the show.
Yeah, we definitely need to.
We need to do that. That just sounds way too important not to have him come in and describe what he knows. Now, is he blocked by any NDAs?
I assume that he is, and obviously, one of the things that he announced in this presentation was that he was actually read out of 27 different programs. So this guy wasn't just a nobody. This guy was in the science directorate. He was in some very significant places, but he was completely read out many years ago. But needless to say, a bunch of the stuff you sign is lifetime. And the thing is that the other thing I really like about him is that he sent this presentation to CIA before he showed it to anybody. And every time he makes a change to it, he sends it back to CIA to get it approved. And one of the things that he's trying to do, and you should see the grin on his face when he talks about this, is he's trying to get stuff redacted. He's trying to see how far he can push before they start redacting stuff. And there's been several slides where he was amazed that they didn't get redacted.
All right, let's move on here to the second part of tonight. Douglas Dean Johnson, who is he and why is he important?
So, actually, Dave, you might be able to inform me better on that than I can inform the audience. In that, essentially, what I know of him is he seems like a very professional researcher that I've interacted with a few times on Twitter. And whenever he's written anything, it's been very well written, it's been very clean, and it's been very easy to read. And he seems to have a good handle on what's going in the government. But beyond that, honestly, I don't know very much about him myself.
Well, I do know that he is very followed on UFO Twitter. He seems to be right at the forefront of a lot of interesting news, especially on the congressional front.
Yes.
And on the governmental side of things. I think this guy has really done his homework. He is somebody who's very interesting, especially when it comes to following the entire UAP phenomena with...
He's very thorough.
Yes, very thorough.
Yes, without a doubt. Yes. And so basically, he was the one that brought a lot of our attention to this amendment. And so it's Amendment SA 4281. It's by Senator Gillibrand. If I'm mispronouncing your name, ma'am, I apologize. And so she, she's kind of, she's well known, but she's, to my knowledge, a newcomer to this whole UAP thing. And what Johnson's article does a really good job of covering is not just her amendment, but all the other amendments that have come before it, and what the progression has been. And if you guys were paying attention before, the Senate wording wasn't very good. It was basically just what we had before with the task force. It was the House wording that was strong before. It was very strong. It was very good. And it appears that what she did, and remember, she's in the Senate, she took the House wording and started with that and then made it even stronger. And if I can just try to read some of this really quick, just because I think it's very pertinent. Is that essentially what her amendment would create is an anomaly, surveillance, and resolution office, basically ASRO. There would be a UAP-focused office that would be placed in the appropriate component of the Department of Defense, with a joint organization of the Department of Defense and the Office of the Directorate of National Intelligence. The head of ASRO would be charged with developing procedures to synchronize and standardize the collection, reporting, and analysis of incidents, including adverse physiological effects regarding unidentified aerial phenomenon across the Department of Intelligence communities. In doing so, the ASRO head could propose, as appropriate, the use of any resource, capability, asset, or process of the department and the intelligence community. This is a very strong role that she's creating. And I have the bill attached to this, and it goes on. She goes into a ton of detail, including creating a science advisory board, a kind of a separate sub-organization to do research. And I mean, she goes into exquisite detail. It's a long amendment. I mean, it's a very long amendment. And I mean, this is good stuff. I mean, and the problem is, and Johnson talks about in his article, is that, we don't know how all the negotiations are going to go, right? And essentially all of these amendments have to be voted on. Now, she's a pretty well-known character. She's got a lot of good friends in the Senate. If she can turn some of them onto it, it might get some support. She hasn't made any public announcements about it. So, we don't really know how strongly she feels about it. But without a doubt, this is my favorite wording that I've seen so far. This is really good stuff. I mean, this is really good stuff. I don't know where the budget would come from. I don't know, how would, because what a lot of people don't realize is when Space Force was created, one of the reasons why Space Force was created so quickly is because there was already a Space Force in each of the branches. Like, each branch had their own Space Force. And so all they did was essentially grab all those people and shift them all together into a new org. So yeah, they're hiring and they're building and so forth, but they kind of were like ready to go with a microwave oven kind of meal, right? And so it's unclear as to exactly how this would roll out. But it's very, very impressive. And like I said, what I really like about his article is the fact that he doesn't just talk about her amendment. He talks about, what happened before, what the previous amendments look like, what was driving them, and it kind of shows a story arc of sorts that shows us how we got to where we are today.
Very interesting. All right. Now, one of the things that you brought up here as well, I got to bring it up here, is this SA 4281.
But that is the amendment.
Okay. So, sorry, I'm having a Canadian moment here.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Not knowing. So with this amendment that you were just talking about, how deep do you see this going? Because this is kind of a first that we're hearing about this.
Well, that's what's so interesting is that she didn't just... So first off, what I was hoping from the beginning was that the Senate would adopt the House language, because the House language was significantly stronger, right? The Senate, all they did was carbon copy what was already there. They just left the task force. They didn't really do anything with it. They just left it exactly how it was before. It was the House that built out this huge idea of eliminating the task force, creating an official office, doing all this stuff. And she basically took that and then expanded it by significant amounts. And so essentially, I mean, she goes into... it's amazing. It's incredibly small font, so have fun. Have fun reading it, folks. But I mean, she goes into defining essentially who gets access to it, what security levels they have to be at. Two people must be appointed from the Presidential National Academy of Sciences. 2 people must be appointed from the National Academy of Engineering. 1 person must be appointed by the President's National Academy of Medicine. I mean, she goes into extreme detail as to, I mean, she builds it out. I mean, this looks like something that was architected in a way that it's designed to be executed on the go. It's not something where you would have to take it and develop it into something. This looks like something that is really kind of like a ready-made, a pre-baked solution that you could really do some. You could kind of be on the ground running.
No.
So I don't know who help she got from, but and I don't know what her angle is. She's not my senator, so I don't know a whole lot about her. I've certainly heard her name several times before, There aren't that many senators, so they kind of stick out. And it's interesting that she's. Just not to get into politics, but I find it interesting she's a Democrat. I think once again this speaks to the bipartisan interest in this topic, but she clearly takes it very seriously.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much for another wonderful edition of the Unbiased UFO Report, which will be stored on our YouTube channel, and you'll post the links on Twitter as well. Thank you so much,
yes,
John.
Sir.
We'll talk to you in the After Hours show.
Yep.
All right. Let's get to the news. Here's Shirky Boo's news tonight. A Minnesota police officer was summoned to break up an unusual street fight. Yeah, the pride of America, two bald eagles, obviously were not fond of each other. They were found stuck together in the middle of the road. The city of Plymouth said in their Facebook post that Officer Mitch Martinson responded to a neighborhood on a report of two bald eagles brawling it out and then getting stuck together on a roadway. Martinson said being called to break up a street fight between two eagles was a first for him. We do have de-escalation tactics, but I've never applied them to eagles or other animals. The officer consulted with the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources and Raptor Center, which told him the eagles were likely in a dispute over territory. Martinson said he was attempting to cover the birds' heads to calm them down when they decided to flee the scene. The eagles started going at it again, and the next thing you knew, they were flying away. Damn eagles. Up here in Canada, this is so Canadian. Very Canadian. I know all the Americans out there who are going to kind of eye-roll the stereotype, but this happens in Canada. Yep. She was a young moose, not even 2 years old, still getting used to her surroundings, when she took a wrong turn on Thursday and crashed through the window of an elementary school classroom in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. By the end of the day, the moose, though a little banged up, had found her way into the hearts of Canadians across the country. Photos of the moose standing in the classroom, shards of glass surrounding her, had swept across social media, stirring a mixture of delight and concern. 14 children attending a before-school program at the school, Sylvia Fedoric Public, were in the room at the time, but they were uninjured and were immediately led away by staff. We're all still kind of shocked, says Principal Victoria Baker. Pardon me, she is a spokesperson for Saskatoon Public Schools, and what might be a little bit of an understatement, it just looks like a quintessential Canadian story, said Pat Dubois, a host of a local country radio station, who had spotted a moose on his way to work and asked listeners to keep their eyes out. Once we found out that the students were okay, and that while the moose was slightly injured, but it was going to be okay, then we were all kind of having a laugh a little bit more. The quip on a few lines where the moose was tired of virtual learning. The students had a special guest for biology class. The schools are finally getting back to normal. After all, about 48,000 moose call the province of Saskatchewan home. Like the youngster still finding her way around the neighborhood, the moose just lost its sense of direction. Good Canadian story. Well, here's another one. This one happened just 2 hours north of me. Here in BC, a woman having a cigarette on her front porch was approached by a wandering bear that licked her on the hand. Yeah, Melanie Porter said she was having a cigarette sitting on a chair on her front porch in Quesnel when she spotted movement in her front yard that she initially thought was the neighborhood cat. Nope. I look up and it's a bear. I freeze, Porter said. I'm thinking, oh, well, what do I do? Seriously, what do I do? I'm just going to stay still. Porter said the bear walked right up to her, sniffed her, licked her on the hand. Porter snapped a photo of the bear standing just inches in front of where she was sitting. If I die, at least they'll see who the culprit was, she said. The bear eventually backed off and Porter rushed back inside her house. She said a neighborhood's security camera footage revealed the bear had been watching her from the yard for some time before approaching. It was so dark and he was so quiet and stealthy I didn't even see him. I was sitting 10 feet away from a bear the entire time. God bless her. That is awesome. Absolutely awesome. Good Canadian bear there. Nobody hurt. Let's get right to the thought of the day. What do we got here? All right. Are there too many UFO, UAP podcasts out there? That's the thought. Chris, yes, and it's great. Eric, I don't know. I just listened to Dave Scott in UFO Garage. Andy, Dave, are you really asking, is there too much information out there? No, that's not the question I asked. My answer is there's never enough information on this subject. Kimberly, yes, it's like streaming services. I can't watch it all. Coral, I'm glad there's a lot, but also got to weed between the good ones that resonate with you. Lou the Lip Blade, it's kind of like streaming apps. They're everywhere, but only have a few of the good stuff. Kenneth, yes, because there's nothing else to discuss. And that's about it. We're going to shut it down right there. Thank you to everybody in the thought of the day. Thank you, John Hudson, Shirky Poo for the news, and of course, R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Yes, remember this show is copyrighted by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
We're watching.
we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.